Hello, Wonder Warriors. Today we're learning about the woolly mammoth, and he is a fascinating creature, and some scientists want to bring him back to life. So he was found in certain icebergs covered in ice, and we actually were able to see a little bit of blood. And inside the blood, it has the DNA, which is what makes up who we are. And they're trying to bring back the woolly mammoth. So, yes or no? Do you think that's a good idea to have a huge creature like this? But we're going to uncover the hidden secrets of the extinct woolly mammoth. So, here you can see those tusks. It was buried in some ice and dirt, and scientists just found it. They're studying it, but he is now extinct. But I want to ask you, do you think people lived at the same time as the woolly mammoth? They did. We coexisted with the woolly mammoth, and the people hunted the woolly mammoth for food, and they would use their bones and their tusks for making art, tools, even for shelter. And they could use the fur or leather to make shoes or clothes. But he was a massive animal. He could be up to 13.5 feet tall and weighed over 11,000 pounds. Super huge. So, what do you think he liked to eat? Big animals like this? Well, this one loved to eat grass and leaves. So he was an herbivore. He did not eat meat. So if you ever saw him fighting with a predator, he didn't want to eat the predator. He just wanted to protect himself. But he would eat so much food. And one mammoth was big enough to provide a meal for an entire community. And the communities were called tribes. And they were able to use the cutting tools made out of his body. And that mammoth provided food for weeks. And those tusks came really in handy for humans. But those are their incisor teeth. So those two tusks are actually incisors, which are teeth. And they could be about as long as your bedroom, 10 to 13 feet, just for those tusks, as big as your bedroom. And if you ever came across and found a woolly mammoth tusk, it would be worth $400 for every pound. So if you have a loaf of bread or a big bag of Doritos, that's a pound. And for every pound, you could get $400 if you had a woolly mammoth tusk. But they are made from ivory. And ivory from a woolly mammoth is legal to sell, but elephant tusks that also are ivory, they're illegal. So why would it be legal to sell the woolly mammoth teeth, but not the elephant, the tusks? So take a minute to think about that. Well, the woolly mammoth isn't around anymore. So if we sell their teeth, we're not killing an animal for it. But many people hunt the elephant just for those tusks. So we're trying to protect the living animals. Now, this one right here is a baby. Look how big the baby is compared to the human. And this one was from 42,000 years ago. But they're just so big. And this is the hair of the woolly mammoth. So if you go to some museums, you might be able to find it. And it's kind of turning a little bit orange colored. And this is because it's kind of absorbing the different minerals in the dirt and also just from being buried for a long period of time. Now, the coat of the woolly mammoth, his hair, is consists of a guard layer. So please say guard layer. Now, these guard layers are about 1 foot long for their hair, and they have an undercoat of shorter hair So they have some long hair and the undercoat is shorter. And because it's layered, it helps keep warmth close to their body. So, as you know, they lived in some pretty cold areas. And looking at this picture, what does this look like to you? That's his jawbone. Doesn't that look wild? It doesn't look like ours where we have lots of teeth. So I want you to think, how many teeth did the woolly mammoth have? Well, they did not have the canine teeth like we do. And we use those teeth to kind of tear it or meat a little bit. Have you ever bitten into a chicken drumstick? You kind of rip the meat off. Well, they don't have that. So they have molars. We have molars too in the back of our mouth, but theirs are larger and flatter back teeth, good for grinding food. And the mammoth, oh my goodness, he loved to spend all day long grazing and just eating grass, kind of like how cows do. They just kind of chew and chew and chew. Now, a lot of people think he was extremely big, but he wasn't as large as most people think. He's about the size of an African elephant. So I want you to think, who do you think would be bigger, the males or the females, the boys or the girls? Well, the males, they were bigger, 9 to 11 feet tall. But the females, they still got up to 9.5 feet tall. And if you look from your floor to your ceiling, you can do that right now, floor to ceiling, that's 8 feet. And they were 10, 11 feet tall. They couldn't even fit into your house. So they still had pretty long lifespans, which means how long they live. And they would live to about 60 years old. So they didn't live all over the world. They lived in the frigid, ice cold parts of the Arctic. And what's cool though is they originated in Africa around 7 million years ago. They stayed for 4 million and began moving to Southern Europe. Then, about 1 million years later, they spread to Siberia and Northern Canada. But their ears, they're a little bit shorter than our modern day elephants. So let's think about it. They're kind of made like an elephant, but they have more fur. That's probably to keep it warm. The elephant doesn't need to stay warm. He's already living in hot temperature. Oh, I know. The elephant is not at risk of getting frostbite from being too cold. And frostbite is when your skin starts to die because it kind of freezes. So uh, the ears being smaller and closer to his head kind of helps keep the heat and protects his ears. So if he had really long ears, that might be dangerous for him. But I just think it's fascinating. Those tusks up to 13 feet long. So look at this picture and think, what is this? This is a part of the mammoth, and it is his foot. Now, these are many cracks inside that foot, and that was actually good for him. It helped him hold on and grip onto surfaces so he wouldn't slip slide all over the ice. And glaciers are big, huge chunks of ice. So some of them are found in glaciers, others have been found in mud from lakes. So they're kind of like pickled, they're kind of preserved. See how this one's still put together pretty good? If you've ever looked at dinosaur bones, a lot of times we just see the bones. But here you can see the animal has hair on it. So there's a lot of things that the scientists can study. So in the classroom, I'd like you to tell me what you think is the most interesting. Now, this one was found with blood that was still able to flow. It was still wet. It wasn't all dried up and dusty. So there's a Russian scientist, and he says, I can make the blood flow. And the one you see here lived 10,000 years ago. And please say the word preserved. That means saved. So he was preserved due to special circumstances. So he didn't defrost, which means melt. He did not defrost and refreeze because that can kind of damage the animal or the meat. He stayed frozen. So that's why he was preserved. Other animals, just like I live in Michigan, we have winters and then we have spring and summer. So the temperature changes a lot and it affects how well something gets preserved. But he just stayed frozen. And this one, we think it's kind of a sad story, but we think he fell into the water and drowned, or maybe he got caught up in muck, which is like sticky mud, and just could not get free. Now, the bottom portion was in the muck, and it just helped protect the animal. So please say the word intact. And when something is intact, it means it stays together. So here you can see this skeleton is intact, it's put together. This one is the most intact skeleton ever sold. And it's sold for $645,000. Most people have to work 10 to 20 years to make that much money. This person just sold the woolly mammoth. $645,000. He was 11 feet high, 17 feet wide, and over 12,000 years old. And right down here, we have a tree trunk. And we can tell how old a tree trunk is by starting in the middle and then counting how many rings there are. So I see more than 5. I know this tree is more than 5, probably more than 10, maybe 15, 20 years old because of all those rings. And if you cut a cross section of the tusk and start counting the rings, we can tell how old the woolly mammoth is. So just like the tree, every year, if it's a good year, there's going to be lots of space in between. If it's a bad year, not a lot of nutrients. They're really tight together and they're kind of squiggly, scraggly, depending on how good the nutrients were. So the tusks, though, are easier to count than a tree. They're kind of just round. They're not all different spaces. Now, he's not here anymore. And we learned a lot about him. I want you to think, what caused him to go extinct? Well, 10,000 years ago, hunters hunted a lot of these. And also the climate changed. It started to warm up. Forests started to spread and they replaced the grasslands. So we had more trees and he liked to eat the grass. And they also didn't have a lot of water. So the last group had problems with getting water. So the woolly mammoths that have been preserved so well that scientists think we could actually do this. We could use their DNA from a really well preserved mammoth and clone one, which means make an exact same one. So you take a little piece of the DNA and you start growing it, and it grows into a whole new woolly mammoth that matches the one that they took the DNA from. So in the classroom, I'd like you to tell me, is it a good idea to bring back extinct animals? I don't know if we have enough food to keep up with what they need to eat. So please say Wrangel Island. This is the final resting place of the woolly mammoth. And most of the woolly mammoth population died around 10,000 years ago. But there was this one small population of 500 to 1,000 of them. And they lived on Wrangel Island. and they died out in 1650 BC. That's just 4,000 years ago, not that long ago. And the thing that I find is exciting is I live in the USA. Wrangell Island is in the USA over in Alaska. So great job today. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the woolly mammoth. Feel free to let me know if there's a certain creature that you would like to learn about, and I can get a video made for you. Let's keep learning and have fun.